Faced with growing tensions with President Salva Kiir, Vice President of South Sudan, Riek Machar, says he has asked for help from East African countries gathered in the IGAD bloc and in particular from Sudan. The new development comes as South Sudan's government forces are reported to have surrounded the residence of Riek Machar in the capital, Juba. It is not clear if Mr. Machar is in the house. The former rebel leader asked regional and international leaders on Friday to intervene to end renewed fighting in Unity and Upper Nile states, which are considered his strongholds. The embattled vice president says he wants Sudanese head of state and top general Abdel Fattah al-Burhan to come to his aid. Khartoum was indeed one of the guarantors of the South Sudanese peace agreement signed in 2018 after 5 years of civil war. But for weeks now, clashes between South Sudan's military and forces loyal to Mr. Machar have been reported in various areas, threatening the fragile peace agreement between him and President Kiir.
Mary Dudu is a single mother of 5. Mary sells vegetables in a market in the capital, Juba. She says the money she makes from her business cannot fully support her family.
I am a single mother. My husband died in the war. I am taking care of my children alone. It's extremely difficult. Everything is very expensive, and there is no money.
And Mary is not alone. Many Juba residents have similar stories.
The government should ensure that there is peace in the country so that we can go to our farms and grow crops. That way we can supply the market with food and we won't have prices going up.
The hardships that we're feeling because of the increase in the price of food is almost unbearable. I don't know if the government knows about this problem. If it knows about this issue, then it should prioritize addressing it. It's now too much.
The economy is ailing as a result of years of civil war, limited production, and the negative effects of COVID-19. And for some, the situation is desperate. Civil servants have gone for months without salaries, yet prices of basic goods continue to rise. Aid agencies warn that more than 60% of South Sudanese people will face acute food shortage this year. The situation has been made worse by 3 consecutive years of flooding, which halted food production across the country. South Sudan's government says it is working to address the problem.
We are going to encourage this year commercial banks to lend to the private sector at the rate of 40% of their deposits. We did that because in previous years we were targeting 20%, which is very low. And to revive the economy, we have to increase lending to the private sector.
For many South Sudanese people like Mary Dudu, their highest priority is to see prices come down, but that might take some time as the country's economy recovers. Patrick Koyet, CGTN, Juba, South Sudan.
Put simply, there cannot be a business as usual approach. The parties must inject fresh urgency into the process and demonstrate a sustained, collective political will to finalize critical areas of the agreement. This includes the transitional security arrangements, legislation promoting financial and judicial reforms, and constitution making so that elections can be held. Will there come a time in which people say the peace agreement has lost credibility? We're not saying that. We've been saying consistently to people, please believe in the peace agreement, please work at it. that while we appreciate the eyes of the world are on Ethiopia and Sudan, it would be wrong to neglect and walk away from the situation in South Sudan, not to recognize that it's an integral part of this region and needs the same level of interest and support that the other countries in the region are getting.
A lot is expected from this particular forum, this governance forum, because it's the first after the civil war. And it is also the first where we have multi-party governance and deputy governors. So the spectrum has changed from the first or from the previous governors forum. There are some other issues that will that are important. The security arrangements, which is the backbone of the agreement. We're now facing some difficulties because of non-completion of the security arrangements. We're trying to double our efforts to see that phase one of unified forces are graduated.
I strongly encourage you to see the Constitution and upcoming electoral processes as important benchmarks in the march towards peace and stability. I would emphasize that a sense of urgency is required, not a business as usual approach. Excellencies, while the parties have coalesced around political benchmarks, it is equally important that they strive to make progress on the transitional security arrangements. There's now a collective duty to finalize a coherent command and control structure for the graduation and deployment of the necessary unified forces. The formation of these forces is, of course, only an initial step in a complex but essential process of constructing national security institutions that serve the interests of the nation as a whole, ones that are its symbol and its mirror.
My name is Miriam.
Benjamin Chirchir.
Stephen Washira.
Mireille Masika.
Alfonso Pagasa. Yakubu Aimi.
Yen Modi.
Lavdi. I come from Kosovo.
Generator technician.
I'm a civil affairs officer.
I work with inventory management unit.
My job is to receive new staff members.
Conducting voluntary HIV testing and counseling. intriguing. Like, I didn't really know much about South Sudan or Africa in general, so it was my first experience in Africa, and I started with the newest country in the world. And also coming from Kosovo, which was the newest country in the world until South Sudan became independent.
I like the assignment simply because I like serving my people. I like working in this country because there are many vulnerable people and I feel I should support them.
Life in Juba is pretty good, I think, compared to some other locations. During the day we can drive and travel, we can go to markets and buy fruits and vegetables. There are many different restaurants that we can visit with all different types of foods. And even on the compound itself, there's lots of really good activities like yoga, CrossFit, and things like that to keep you healthy.
You told me something about the risks of mango. Can you tell me more?
Whoa. This only happens in Yambio. So you can see from behind is that you never walk around. Around this season, this should be around May, June. All the mangoes are ripe. You only need to sit under a tree and wait for the wind to blow it up. Then, bam, you got it. You just need to wear it on your head.
I would tell them to come and see with their own eyes. Like, don't really trust the media only.
You need to be here. You just need to be here to really understand the beauty of this country, the people who are here, the nice people here, the diverse culture.
If you are a humanitarian person by nature, I think here is a good place for you to come and work.
You can never regret. It's different from what you see on the news.
I would say come. Don't think twice about it. Come to Juba. It's one of the best things that I've ever done.
My earliest memory is of standing in front of the mirror and saluting myself. I never thought of joining business. I never thought of counting numbers and becoming an accountant. My only passion was to wear the uniform. I joined against the wish of my parents, became a paratrooper, became a special service leader, specializing in desert warfare to start with. And then I had a good progression. I got my promotions on time. I commanded my battalion as a colonel, as a brigadier in the northeast part of India, as a major general in the northern part of India. I had the good fortune of serving in United Nations on 2 previous occasions, one as a military observer and the second as a staff officer. First in Angola, which was a unique kind of a mission itself, when peacekeeping was just about taking off, and second in Khartoum, Sudan, before South Sudan split from Sudan. You see, the mission has transitioned from one which was dealing with political violence between 2 or 3 major parties to now largely intercommunal violence or community violence between community-based militias, which results in possibly more loss of lives and as much, if not more, displacement. Deployment in small detachments across the state is one decision that we as a mission have taken, and that has definitely saved lives, even if it has not protected all. The second important decision I feel is our mobility remains a challenge. You are pretty aware of the kind of terrain that we face in South Sudan, which is marshy, swampy, non-negotiable in most of the wet season, and although we knew that people were dying, people were killing each other, we were unable to respond. So we are getting all-terrain vehicles in the form of SHERPs, not an ideal military solution, but at least will provide mobility to the force to reach areas of conflict where we could not even reach, even though we knew that people were indulging in violence. Our presence would have enabled it to control that violence. Firstly, it's a safety and security of peacekeepers who have deployed on my instruction. I want to be assured that they are safe. They are not working or functioning in a normal environment where you have possibly their acceptance. The blue flag and the white vehicle has been accepted as a neutral force. So you could have conditions where they may come under attack, and a small force, if it is located in an area which is violent and which does not respect them, could lead to a disaster. So that is something that constantly motivates me, guides me to see that, ensure that they are safe and secure. The second is the responsibility that I have got as a force commander, and that is of protecting lives. I don't want to be sitting here when people may be dying outside. I feel that the UN system is very slow to respond to situations, and there may be a requirement of a faster process since our principal job and our resources have to be prioritized for protection. We cannot rely on long bureaucratic procedures while people die. This is not like a defense of a country. This is peacekeeping. Women form often more than 50% of the population, and if their concerns and their security, their threats, abuses that have happened, if they are not addressed appropriately by peacekeepers, I think we are failing in our duties. Our women are doing a phenomenal job in very, very difficult circumstances, often without anything available that should be available to women out in the field, but they still volunteer to do the tough duty and move shoulder to shoulder with men peacekeepers, and actually do far more. Democratic structures take time to build. The process has started. I do hope that the leadership is able to get the framework of their society and of their government going, established, and that will then set up the path for future growth. Building a nation is not a matter of years, it is a matter of decades. It's a time-consuming process. What is the patience, resilience that they have in supporting? But then you have people who are vulnerable. Can you turn a blind eye and say, okay, you do what you want? And we cannot keep a large peacekeeping force here. I don't think we can do that either. There were people who died here and their bodies could not be sent back in time. So you did face huge personal sense of loss during this period of time. But through it all, I can be very, very happy that we never wavered on our mandate, and the peacekeepers continued, not bringing their personal problems affecting their work, and we discharged the mandate for which we have been sent here by the Security Council. Hello, how are you? Very good. Welcome. Hello. Whatever you do, you cannot put a person in a line of fire. You cannot put lives at risk if you haven't given them a fair and a very good chance of being successful. We would also like to know what, in your view, is the I'll be happy to shed this uniform. Having worn this without a single scar, having worn this very proudly, over this long period of time. I'm very proud of having achieved, of being decorated and having lived to the credo that a uniformed man should be living. So that makes me happy, and I'll be very happy to shed it, that I've done my bit and I'm not going to look back again. So that's a history. You know, if you see the benchmarks of what makes a life, your family, your profession, your partner, very lucky to have a very, very supportive partner, a very good single child, a career which has progressed with time, which has been diverse in terms of the areas that I've served and the experiences that I've gained from each. And I finished this career as the head of a largest peacekeeping force. So what would I have had differently? I'm very fortunate, I'm very lucky.
Welcome to Zanzibar, Gaza. How are you?
I am more happy than you are.
No.
Very nice and very short.
Very short.
The interest is to see that the people of South Sudan, and particularly in this case the people of Gaza, that they reach their fullest development potential, that the children in this state can dream, and they won't feel that they don't have a right to dream. Everyone will do their part, and I want to challenge you to do your part to double your increase, your yield, and make sure you have enough that you produce so that the mill will work and that you will be able to not only feed yourselves but feed this nation.
We started these workshops last year, and their aim is actually to bring experiences from other countries here to our local counterparts in South Sudan. So basically, we have gathered several soldiers from UNMISS force, and in the next 3 days they will present their countries, present their armies, and share their experience focusing on gender equality and response to gender-based violence. Many perpetrators do come from security sector. Many of them wear uniforms, and that's why we have these targeted workshops where we are speaking about gender equality and response to gender-based violence. Idea is that they will go further, and whatever they learned today here, that these officers will also relay to their colleagues in the field. So the overall aim is to reduce gender-based violence committed by people who wear uniforms.
For this workshop, we are getting a lot of benefits from it, because before, the girls in uniform, they were really very vulnerable, but now they are confident. They know their rights, they know what they are doing, they know where to go.
Last year in September we had similar workshop with SSNPS, with local police. So now this workshop is focusing on SSPDF. And this is just the second in a series of the workshops where we will go throughout all security sector institutions and have similar workshops like this one.
Conflicts erupted in Juba, Central Equatoria, leading to massive displacement, with the signing of the revitalized agreement on resolution of conflict in South Sudan in September 2018. The warring parties committed to supporting conditions for return of civilians to their homes, with the promise of confidence building through reconciliation and dialogue. It is therefore critical that IDPs and refugees returning to areas of origin within Central Equatoria will be supported and will receive protection from state and local authorities, humanitarian actors, armed forces, and host communities. this workshop today aims at enhancing the capacities of all stakeholders responsible for managing return and reintegration at county level, state level, to effectively discharge their responsibilities, including managing the relationships between host communities, IDPs, and returnees. It also seeks to address the coordination gaps between humanitarian service providers, the needs of IDPs and returnees, as well as effective information sharing with all stakeholders.
International organizations. We cannot talk about the protection of civilians and then the returns and reintegration of the IDPs before understanding what could have been done first. The issues of disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration as the first step, the very first step to ensure security sector reform is paramount. Because of the inconclusive nature of our DDR in South Sudan, I'm afraid to say it might be one of the reasons why there is a relapse of violence in the country. We understand there is spontaneous returns, but the spontaneous returns process is being frustrated by relapse of violence.
They are suffering. You cannot come and hold those responsible for
We need to prepare in order to resettle our displaced persons. Without leveling the ground for the displaced persons, we will continue to see relapse of violence, and that will discourage the IDPs and returnees, voluntary returnees, to come back home.